Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Danielle. Welcome to Close. This is my Friday live stream for Options Expiration Friday. This is a special segment where I dual broadcast my trading room session. And the trading room session is gonna be at Simpler Trading. It's called the Mastering the Trade Room. So I'm basically right now just waiting for my good friend and colleague Bruce to wrap up before I start the live stream there. How's everyone doing today? Let me know in the chat if you have any questions or if you have any tickers or requests that you want me to look at. I'm also going to go ahead and post the link. Um, I'm going to go ahead and post the link to the trading room if you want to check it out. All right, let me go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. This is Danielle. How are you doing today? Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Good. Good. All right. Well, go ahead and let me know if you have any requests. I'll make sure that I take them throughout the course of the session. As of right now, things have just been choppy. Not really a whole lot going on. We have an expiration Friday where we have quite a bit of consolidation around the 69.50 strike price in the S&P. We also have quite a bit of consolidation around 25,750 in the Nasdaq. If you take a look at the ticks, just to measure the buying and selling pressure here, just a whole lot of back and forth. The ticks were kind of stuck between the -600 and +600 levels for most of the session. We did have this one spike down into -929, but it looks like that was a little bit of a fat finger move. After that, we have another move down into the -600 level. So when you're looking at all of that, um, I can't say that there's been consistent buying or selling pressure. There's just been some selling, some buying, some selling, some buying, a whole lot of nothing. So nothing major as far as a big directional move is concerned. Taking a look at the vol spread just to measure the direction of the volume. Looks like we have volume that's been shifting lower today, but I mean, it's not like it's been careening lower. For example, this day right here, you can see that it was significantly more bearish. So you can see that we have, just continued downwards price action, high volume selling right here. And this, of course, was high volume buying that day. Yesterday, it was a little bit more consistent, trending higher until it reversed and then it reversed again. But today it's been just a little bit weak, but not, you know, massively selling off. Um, the put call ratio, it's still kind of low, but I mean, it's not extremely low. Extremely low would be down below zero point 0.6, especially down below zero point 0.5. These were extreme low readings. So at this point, the book call ratio is normalizing up at 0.72. So for those reasons, it seems like, it's possible that the NASDAQ kind of bottomed here and it's ready to start shifting higher. VIX is low down at 15, so nothing substantial there. Um, so as far as like a trade is concerned, right here at the end of the day, I just don't really have anything great. I feel like this may be a neutral iron fly kind of day, especially because it is a Friday options expiration. We are right at 69.50. There hasn't really been anything major in the way of buying or selling in either direction. Um, so we could try that. At the same time, we do have some squeezes setting up. So we have this major daily squeeze that's been on that daily chart for quite some time. On the 15-minute time frame, we have a 15-minute squeeze here, which could very well take off. Let's look at the 5-minute chart. We also have a 5-minute squeeze there, 15-minute squeeze, 30-minute squeeze. So when you have these squeezes setting up, um, on multiple time frames like this, the indexes are definitely getting ready to move, but it's just kind of a function of, okay, is that movement gonna happen today before the market closes, or is this gonna be, Monday or Tuesday? So, whenever you're trying to, um Whenever you're trying to decide if you should do an end of day trade, I mean, that's really just the question here. It's like, okay, things have been trading sideways. Nothing has really been happening. Do you think we could make it through another, 53 minutes without too much movement? Yes or no? It's always hard to say, but, obviously we watch the market internals to see if there's any major buying or selling pressure coming through. And then the idea would be, okay, if we start getting some buying or selling pressure, let's just get out kind of thing. On the flip side of that coin, could we make a directional move? I mean, I'm just not seeing it yet. We could wait until the second half of the session to see if we end up getting some buying. I mean, overall, I think the 15 and 30-minute squeezes look like they're going to fire to the long side. You're trading at 69.15 effectively. So, could you try to target like 69.20, 69.25, something like that? Um, you could probably do that. Let's look at the options chain. Okay, so looks like the expected move into the end of the session is only $10. And we have quite a bit of open interest at 69.20 and 69.25 and 69.30. So if we do end up getting a directional move to the upside, um, I think either one of those strikes would be fine. I don't love the idea of making a neutral play here just because I like to make the neutral plays at the strikes that have the highest open interest because those are going to be the strikes that are the pinning strikes, right? Typically, when you're selling like a neutral iron fly at the end of the day on a Friday, the ideal spot to do it is when the ticker is at the high open interest strike. So in this case, we're basically between 69.10 and 69.15, and neither one of those strikes are the high open interest strike, at least on the call side. We do have quite a bit of volume here on the put side, but I feel like overall, um, just doesn't look super favorable to me. So if you really wanted to try it out, you could. Um, but I think I'm gonna have to pass on it, and I think I'm just gonna wait and see if we get a better signal and a better setup closer towards the end of the session because it may very well be that we just get some selling and we get a move down into 6,900, but I don't really like to make the directional calls until the second half hour of the session. Danielle, give us some more lemonade. Yeah, that was a really good trade. So it looks like lemonade is pulling back now that it hit the $100 price point. Um, so yeah, I mean, this was a really good trade this week. Basically what this was just a short squeeze. So, it was just a stock that was continuing going higher on high volume. I went ahead and got into it, I think right around here, and then it basically just gapped up overnight and took off. Today it's pulling back, but that's because it already made targets, so that's fine. Um, I did go ahead and take profits on that yesterday, and I made a YouTube video about it as well. So the YouTube video is on my channel, Trader Danielle, and the trades were posted in the trading room. So at this point, lemonade is pulling back. With any short squeeze, you want to capture the high volume breakout. You can see that there was the high volume breakout yesterday. Um, and after that, you just want to take profits at targets. So it made the first target, which was a new high. It made the second target, which was right here at 93. Then it made the third target, which was technically at 96.81. But I mean, really, after that, the key psychological value target is 100. So this one has already made all the targets. Now it's pulling back. Anytime you have a short squeeze ticker that starts pulling back like this, and you're getting this big wick at the top of the candle, it's down more than 2%. That's typically when I'm going to take profits in the options market, because the whole point of the short squeeze is to trade the momentum. So when the momentum runs out, it's just done. Um, but I still like this stock long term. I still like the move. For me, this was just like a quick in and out options trade. One of the main reasons why um I wanted to go ahead and trade this one was because of the overall statistics and pattern. So if you're looking at the overall statistics and pattern, what you'll see here is that there's a major gap up after earnings last quarter. Is a 15.4% gap up. And the quarter before that, it was 11.8% gap up. The quarter before that, it was 8.5% gap up. Yeah, this quarter was down, but the quarter before that too, it was 11.4% gap up. So I think overall, this one has a really strong pattern and a strong trend going into earnings, and it has another earnings report coming up, of course. It's not soon, just because it's in the beginning of March, so there's still quite a bit of time to go. So I feel like now that Lemonade has already made multiple short-term targets, if you want to get in it again, I'm sure there's going to be another opportunity, but I would like to see a pullback down into, I would say, at least the 21 EMA around 83 before it would be good to start getting in it again. Let's see, what about MU? Yeah, and I've been looking for more of these short squeeze trades. I mean, I look for the short squeeze every single day. It's just you never know what you're gonna get, You just have to wake up and see what the market can give you. There are definitely some that were coming up on my watch list recently, and I'm gonna go over those after I get through the questions. So I only have 2.67% short float on this one, but for MU, my price target was 400. That price target's been met, and it actually surpassed it all the way up into 412. So if you're looking at, the way that this move has played out, it's just been absolutely insane. So, um, I I don't know what to do with this one at this point because I will trade tickers that have insane moves like this. But the thing is that I usually only do it when there's short float. Because the thing about the short squeeze is that's what causes these crazy moves. It's not as common for just like a large cap or mega cap stock to just have one of these just insane moves where it just keeps going and going and going. Like, look, from $61 to 412, like that is not normal. So when a ticker, and I know it's in the news and all that good stuff and fundamentals, yeah, yeah, yeah. But still, that type of move on a percentage basis is just not normal. So I just don't really have anything to do with it because it's like, I can't trade the short squeeze. Um, it's not gonna be favorable to buy it at this level, even though the earnings report was really good, even though there was a big gap up, like, this thing is gonna come back at some point. So, I would just I would just not I mean, I don't wanna touch it. Um, but I feel like if you wanted to, sell some calls up here or bet against it, you could probably do that. It's just not my trading style. My trading style is identify the trend, identify relative strength, buy pullbacks in the context of the trend, and ride the move. It's just not really my kind of style to come in and say like, "Hey guys, let's sell some covered calls on this," because it's just not really what I do. So, um, I'm more focused on, okay, how can we get the next big breakout move? So as far as like identifying tickers for the short squeeze, basically what I'm looking for is you definitely have to look for something that people are betting against, right? So a lot of these short squeeze names, I go on TV and like I'll, call out trades on them and stuff, and like I'll have people write mean comments on the internet like, "Oh yeah, you're so dumb," like, "Oh, you're gonna put your money in that," and these are so volatile, and it's like, well, that's the point. Like the point is that they're volatile. The point is that people are hating on them. The point is that, they're heavily shorted, and then that's what can make it explode. So, you can't find something like it's not going to make it a good short squeeze if, 20% of the shares are not short. You know what I mean? So, this is one that I've been talking about. I think Henry's in this one in the trading room. I did not um personally buy it myself. I should have. It's up like 10% today. So this was the number one that I was considering just buying today. I was doing a bunch of research and reading about this one right before I started my session. And I mean, ultimately, like, I can't really comment on how strong it is, from an AI infrastructure play standpoint. That is the draw with this one here, and they have a new deal with Microsoft, which is good. A lot of these names are just they're so new. It's going to be hard to say long term, but on a short term basis, I mean, it's setting up for a short squeeze. And why is that? Well, because you had this massive move right here, 19% after this earnings report. It's true that last quarter it fell after earnings, so that's not 100% ideal. Typically, what I like to see for a big rally going into a report, um, is I like to see the prior quarter, the stock having like a big gap up. So, um, it's not 100% perfect, but I will say that, last quarter it gapped down after just a massive move. So this is somewhat typical, even on a strong stock, to see a gap down like that, and give back some of that move. But overall, with this one, if you look at the earnings hot zone, you can see that the stats are really strong here. So in the pre earnings 21-day average, the stock is up historically 21%. Like that's insane. So that's the kind of volatility that I like to see and I like to trade. Um, Even in the 8 days before earnings, it's up on average like 20%. And in the 10 days after earnings, it's up on average 10%. Now, of course, it doesn't work every quarter. You can see last quarter it was down after the earnings report. But statistically, over the last 8 quarters, those are the stats. So this is one that I was looking at for a short squeeze entry today. The earnings report is on the 5th, and I do like that it's up today. Um, it would have been better if it would have broken out above this high. So above this recent high, 58 and a half, up above 60, because that's where the short squeeze is really going to take off. Anytime you have a break up above a previous high, and then, you can usually trade it up into the most recent high, which is like 76. So I think that one looks pretty good. The short float on that one is almost 17%. So that's pretty high. Um, it doesn't have the consolidation on the daily chart. So I usually like to see like consolidation on the daily chart or about to break out. It doesn't have that, but it does have a really nice weekly chart. Nice cup and handle, starting to explode. Weekly chart pattern with price target up at 88 and then 100. So, of course, that's like a longer term price target. So, I do like that one. Um, I think that the earnings report falling on the February 5th date is going to give you enough time that you could trade this one going into the report. I don't love the entry, like I said, since it's already up like 9% today. But these calls aren't that expensive. You could get like a Delta 70 for $8. You get a Delta 60 for like $6.50. It's really not bad. Um, so I do like that one. The one that I am in right now, I don't want to have like too many of these names in the same space, but I am in this one already. Honestly, the IREN looks a little bit better with the patterns in the earnings hot zone. Just because if you look at this one, I mean, you can see that it's gap down, multiple quarters in a row. Um, with this one, I got into it because we have a little bit more time on the trade. There's an earnings report on the 24th. We have a daily squeeze, it's up above the 50 simple, it's up above the 100 simple, it's up above the 8 EMA, the 21 EMA, like all of that looks really good. Um, so when you're looking at upside targets on this one, uh, you're basically just trying to target that previous high up at 25.52. And then after that, if you could get it all the way up to 28, that would be great. But really just trying to go for the easy target, which is that previous high at 25.50. And this one has almost 16% short float. So this one, definitely like in the same space, definitely has a very similar setup where last quarter just had this huge move. Last quarter, they were estimated to lose 7 cents and they made 10 cents. So that's pretty big. And a lot of the times, what you'll see happen with these short squeeze names is like they'll be estimated to lose money. And when they end up making money, um, that's where they really just rally and take off and have a big explosion either before the earnings report or even after the earnings report. Like you can see a little bit this one where it gapped up 23%. So I do have long calls in this one. Let's see about HUT. So this is another one that came up um on my short squeeze search today. This one has an earnings report on the 2nd. Um, so when you're looking at that, I mean, I think that there's plenty of time to trade a rally going into earnings. But again, with this one, you can see that it pulled back last quarter. So it's not 100% perfect. Typically you really want to see like a big gap up the previous quarter in order to get that good run into earnings. But at least with this one, it does have those positive pre-earnings stats. So you can see like these pre-earnings 21-day average are going to be like 12% to the upside, pre-earnings 8-day average or 8% to the upside, post-earnings 8-day average are going to be 2%. So when you're looking at all that, I mean, I still think that this one's a pretty good one. It's also a lower price name. Probably a better entry would be like around 50. Kind of like same space. So I like that one. Let me go back and look at my watch list here. Basically, I have APLD, IREN, WULF, HUT, CLSK, Galaxy, Cipher, Mara, Reddit. So for all of those things, these are basically like the short squeeze names that have a big percent change today. So when I'm trying to look for a ticker that I want to trade, um, basically what I do is I use my custom made short squeeze watch list, and then I always wanna go in the direction of the trends. I mean, you can see that a lot of these names, like, are down a lot today. RCAT was on fire yesterday. Today, it's down 8%. Um, they are absolutely volatile. They're volatile. That's what they do. They move around a lot. But that's why, you have to I already had taken profits on this one last week, so I wasn't in it today. But that's why, you basically wanna follow the move up, and then when it runs out of momentum, get out. Now, sometimes, I'm not gonna be perfect in my timing. CRML, this is one that I got out of because it was losing momentum, and, it turned around and it took off, and now I'm not on the train. So, I did get out of CRML. I got out of CRML when it was reversing and breaking through the 8 EMA. That was a pretty tight stop to have on it, but I was also at like a 50% loss on my options. And, with the short squeeze, they can reverse pretty hard and pretty fast. So that was why I ended up getting out. In this case, it turned out not to be the right decision because it did, reverse and now it's taking off. So at this point, um, I can look at it and say, well, should I get back in? Um, because it's breaking out above previous highs. It's up 10%. It has high volume. It has basically everything that you want to see um, for a short squeeze breakout. So if we look at this one, we just say, okay, is there um, anything that we can do with it? Again, I mean, it's only a $20 stock, so the options aren't that expensive. It does have a weekly squeeze. And then if you look at the daily chart, this is one of the main things that I want to see when there's a short squeeze that's happening. So, do you see how low the volume was? Low volume, low volume, low volume. And then do you see how when it broke out above the 50 simple, the volume spiked and it was significantly more than what the volume had been? And then do you see how the volume spiked again when there was another breakout? And then do you see how there's again another, volume spike as it broke out above that previous high? So with the short squeeze, I mean, you definitely want to see that incoming volume. You want to see that volume continually increasing because that's what's going to help it explode to the upside. So in this case, could you just buy it again? I mean, yeah, you could definitely buy it again. If I would still have my options, then they would have been making money at this point. Um, but I think if you look at the lower time frame charts just to see if there's any reason to buy it now, there is this squeeze right here on the 195-minute chart. Um, I really prefer to have like a daily squeeze and a 195-minute squeeze together because it's going to give it more movement to the upside. Um, Lower time frame chart looks like we had a 30-minute squeeze that already fired. Look at the 1-hour chart. So, you basically just want to identify, where the previous highs are. And then generally with the short squeeze, whenever you have breaks out above the previous highs, that's when it usually takes off. So, for this one right here, that previous high, like right around 20 and a half, really 21, like that's the spot where I would expect it to keep going. So, I think it's fine to get back in it right now. It's not I don't know. I really like to look at a stock and feel highly confident. I like to look at it and be like, "That's amazing. I gotta buy it," instead of one of these things where it's like, I could probably buy it and it would probably work." Um, so that's just kinda how I feel about that one. but I do think overall the pattern looks good, and if you didn't get out of it when I did, then you're looking great. So if you're still in it and you're continuing to trade it, your next target's going to be 22.5 and then 26.75. Danielle got reverse taco traded. Yeah, and then ultimately, it just depends how far out your options are. Um, you know, longer term, price targets are 30 and then upwards at 40. So in order to say, okay, well, when could that actually happen? You just want to go to your options chain and say, okay, when is a $20 move reasonable in this name? And it looks like the market makers are pricing in a $20 move by August. So, it's not something where, well, I guess anything can happen. There are crazy moves all the time. But just from a strict, like looking at, reasonable price targets here, that is something that I would say, okay, August makes a lot more sense. Danielle, random. I haven't seen Charles Payne on the guest list for Vegas. Any idea if he's planning to be there? I don't think he's going to be there this time. I didn't see him on the list either. You're holding onto your shares, sold a covered call. Wondering if you should hold or exit half of a position. Are you talking about Microsoft? Any short squeezes? Also, QXO might be a good longer term stock or option. CEO loves to buy and turn around companies, has financing in place, and is in the infrastructure sector. Has shorts and beat last quarters, so could be a good one. Yeah, so looks like we have 10% short float. It's better than 2%, better than 3%. You can still get a decent short squeeze with a 10% short float. I would just say that the thing about this one is just that, the overall trend is not very good. It's just not very consistent. I can't speak to the different factors you were talking about just because I'm not familiar with it. But if you're looking at this overall trend, it's just not trending as well as I would like to see it trend for me to do a good short squeeze. Especially because I don't know what this is about, but I would definitely want to know before I started trying to buy something because that is just not a favorable pattern whatsoever. I mean, it looks to me like it was an IPO and it exploded, pulled back, and then it just got completely destroyed. So that doesn't look very favorable, but it does look like it has improved since that time. Covered calls on Lemonade. I would personally not do covered calls on Lemonade. That's just not really my style. Um, if you own the stock and you want to sell covered calls on it, like don't let me stop you. It is pulling back. So if there was a time to sell it, then I can see why you would want to do it now because it's down 4%. Again, I just like to follow the trend. So it's just not really my style to come in like I go to a lot of work and time and effort to identify these stocks that I think are going to explode. And so it just goes against my nature to try to come in and like sell calls because the whole reason why I'm trading them is because I think they're gonna explode to the upside. So the thought of selling covered calls is like, ooh, or I don't really want to do that. Things like, Microsoft. It's funny, I pull that one up as an example when it's up 3.67% today. Microsoft is very, very rarely up more than 2%. So for me personally, if I'm gonna sell like covered calls, I would rather pick something like a Mag 7 stock where, yeah, they move like 1 or 2%, but they don't, you're not gonna wake up one day and it's gonna be up 10% unless it was an earnings report. These are the kinds of stocks that are generally gonna be a little bit better to sell covered calls on, though I will admit the premium on Lemonade is probably a lot better. So let's look at Oklo. And then as far as Microsoft, you want to know if you should get out of half your position. I don't know about that. I don't know what your position is. I don't know why you got in. I don't know what the setup was or anything like that. I can tell you my opinion on this Microsoft stock chart is that it just got pretty extended for quite some time. It was up until it was up, 9% after earnings, and it was up another 8.2% after earnings. And at that point, it just got a little bit frothy and it just ran out of momentum. Um, I still really like the name. It's still one of my top long-term picks in my long-term stock portfolio. Um, it's broken down through the 50 simple. It's broken down through the 100 simple. And now at this point, it is holding up above the 200 simple. Well, it was holding up above the 200 simple until it broke that and it flushed on high volume. So, I mean, I'm not going to sell my Microsoft shares. I feel like this is still like a really good, stable, long-term company, but it hasn't really looked very good recently. So for all of these things, it's just kind of a situation where I don't really know what to do with Microsoft here because I was trying to trade it up into 500 and that failed when it broke below the 200 simple. And I mean, I think it's great. It's reversing off of the lows, but you still have all of this resistance. You have resistance at 485 and you have resistance at 500. So I don't see a good trade in it right now. End of day SPX trade. I mean, to me, it looks like a move into 6,900 at this point, but there are days where the trade is obvious and there are days where the trade is not obvious. And generally, the days where the trade is not obvious are the days that it doesn't work. So I don't want to force a trade here when it just doesn't seem super clear to me at this point. Now that we're at 12:38 p.m. Eastern time, certainly things have been weaker than they were when I first started this session. We have the vol spread that's trending lower. We have the ticks that are now going higher. So it's kind of like, all right, well, you don't really want to short it if the ticks are starting to go higher because that's buying coming in. You're kind of holding here at the 69.40 price point. To me, it just looks like a bunch of chop. So I will readily admit that we are within range of the 6,900 value in the SPX. So it seems like an obvious shot to make a $6,900 butterfly. But the market internals just not really confirming that. I'm looking to buy puts on BE. Netflix is a good stock. OKLO. I'm brand new here. Will you be trading the NASDAQ or gold for power hour? Can you understand why you didn't enter the SPX? I couldn't understand. So I trade whatever I find during the session. A lot of the times I will trade the SPX at the end of the day. But if there's no clear setup and no clear signal, then I don't want to waste my money. So the reason why I did not trade it is because I didn't want to waste my money. At this point, it's we're starting to get some buying at the end of the day, which is interesting because things have been weak. So it's kind of like, well, I don't really want to buy it when things have been weak. That goes counter to what I was thinking. But we are for the first time starting to get a pretty significant amount of buying pressure here. So anyways, I just don't have a good read on it today. Do I trade the NASDAQ futures? I'm happy to look at the NASDAQ futures for you and see if there's anything there, but I can tell you that today it's just been a slop fest. So I am primarily a directional trader. I want to come in, I want to identify direction, I want to jump on that move when it's happening, and when it's just, not happening, then that's a moment to kind of like step back and look at these some of these longer term charts to see if there's a better opportunity for some swing trades. So there's just not really anything going on here. With the Nasdaq futures, same as the S&P. Generally, I'm going to trade the 0 DTE SPX contracts in the options market. Just because, I'm primarily an options trader, but I mean, certainly I can look at the charts. We don't usually trade the index because the volume's not very good. So Nasdaq futures, yes, I would trade it, but there's just not really, your next upside target is going to be 25,756. And then if you can break through that high, you're looking at 25,800. Danielle, I too have held on to stocks in my IRA, I believe, for long term solid companies. Now that I'm nearing mandatory retirement, I only want stocks performing now, and I wish I had been more proactive in dumping underperformers. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty, I don't know. I mean, I usually do the whole tax loss selling thing in my stock portfolios at the end of the year. But I feel like even the times where I have sold shares, they ended up, for the most part, I feel like I should have just held on to them. There have been some, obviously, like Chewy and Peloton from 2020 that were that were ended up just being total losers. But for the most part, when I'm buying long-term stock, I usually like to combine that with fundamentals as well. As far as IBIT is concerned and Bitcoin, I mean, it's not looking anywhere near as good as it was. You can see that it broke out above the 50 simple. I got in right here. I was trying to trade the breakout. The breakout just reversed and gave it back, and now it's stuck underneath the resistance. So I can't say that looks very favorable at this point. Should I just go ahead and get out of my IBIT trade? There's probably something to be said for that, considering that it has this daily squeeze and now you're underneath resistance. Let's look at the weekly chart. Looks like that weekly setup fired to the downside. And let me just change that. So we have the 1618 extension that was met at 96,000. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It looks to me like it's pretty oversold. So with the IBIT trade, it's not looking very good. You're underneath the resistance zones at this point, but it's also only worth like 18 cents now. So at this point, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, would you rather get like your 18 cents back per contract, or would you rather see if there's going to be a random move in Bitcoin to the upside? So that's where I'm at with this one right now. With gold and silver, these things just continue exploding. I don't have a trade on them, but I buy the physical gold and silver. I'm definitely going to keep holding them. This is just a major, major squeeze. The next price target in gold is definitely going to be 5,000. We came just right within range of that, didn't quite hit. After that, 5061 is going to be the next target. If you're looking at this lower time frame chart, 15-minute chart, looked great all day. High volume, incoming volume, just continuing to trade higher until it ran into this overhead area of resistance. On the 30-minute chart, you can see that again, you had this nice pullback buy, shift higher, looks great. So next price target is 5,000. Do you buy more VIX calls when you hear more jets than usual? I never buy VIX calls. APLD. So this is one that I think is a pretty good candidate for the short squeeze. If it had a daily squeeze, it would look a little bit better. I feel like a lot of these, like, they look good, but they just don't look amazing. Um, so when you're looking at this one, it's like, yeah, it was up today, but I don't love the I the thing about this short squeeze is this, is that when it breaks out above the previous high, that is an amazing spot to get in because that's usually when a lot of the short sellers buy to cover and it just like explodes to the upside. In this case, do you see how it came right up to the previous high and then there's this big wick at the top of the candle? So you just kind of have to be careful with some of these because I mean, you have to remember that they are getting heavily shorted. And so those short sellers do come back in and they kind of like knock it down at these levels. And so sometimes what will happen is I'm trying to trade the breakout and then that actually ends up being the wall of resistance. So I like this ticker. I like the overall pattern. I like the short float. I was considering getting in it, but I also just don't like how it's just not breaking through. It was trying all day. It was trading higher on high volume, had this nice trend, but then it just came up to this level and just, got hammered down. So with a lot of these, I mean, I like to see them break out on high volume at the end of the day and basically continue going, and that's just not really what's going on there, so I didn't end up getting into that one. Let's look at OKLO. So this is actually a perfect example of what I was saying because do you see how on this day right there, do you see how it came up and it hit that area of resistance and boom, it just got hammered? So this day, it was a false breakout. You see how it has 2 to 3 times the average volume? And I didn't buy it on that day, but I remember looking at it and thinking, "Yes, this is perfect. This is gonna get going again. I gotta get into this one." Um, for whatever reason, I didn't end up getting into it, but then it reversed. So that's something that can happen with the short squeeze, especially because there's all of this overhead resistance. The short squeeze works a lot better when there's not overhead resistance. So in this case, you can see how it's just like trading higher and trading higher and trading higher. Um, so at this point, it's just one of those things where it's like, could it start short squeezing again? I mean, yeah, but it would have to get up above 116. And currently right now you're trading at 87. And it's also now in a downtrend. So the best short squeezes are going to be the ones that are in a bullish uptrend. Um, I do like ALAB. Yes, ALAB is down today. But I mean, I like it. It's pulled back. It's bouncing on the 50. You do have a nice wick at the bottom of the candle. You do have a daily squeeze. You do have an earnings report coming up on the 10th. There's squeezes on multiple time frames. You have, squeeze on the daily chart. You have a squeeze on the 195-minute chart. I think this one has a weekly squeeze too. So the main reason why I like this one is because of the weekly squeeze. So this one looks really good for just buying long-term shares. And the reason why this one looks better for buying shares than some of the others is because it also has the fundamental component. So, I mean, you can see that there's an earnings report where they were estimated to lose money and then they made 10 cents. Then this quarter, they were estimated to again lose money, but they made 13 cents. Quarter after that, estimated to lose money, then they made 23 cents. And so you can see how the earnings numbers are continually increasing quarter over quarter. That's definitely something that I want to see if I'm actually going to buy the shares of the stock versus just trading it short term in the options market. So, I mean, I like that one. Um, Looks pretty good. Um, if you are looking at buying the stock, then I would say that the overhead price target is 300, which I mean, obviously makes for some great upside considering it's trading at 169. When you do your fib lines, do you use the top of the wick or the top of the candle? The top of the wick. Yeah, I mean, I would put a trade on if I thought there was a good one here, but now we're at 12:51, so this is basically the end of day trade, like the last 8 minutes. At this point, it looks like it's a long, just because you have, the ticks have turned around, they've shifted up into the positive territory, you've bounced off of this level, but I still just don't really think it's a very good day to put some money on because I just feel like it's just been all over the place. It's up and then it's down and it's just not really doing it for me, guys. What is the turbo oscillator and how do you use it? So that is a measure of volume and how the volume is shifting. So you're basically looking for volume breaking out to the upside or breaking down to the downside. So the 0 line is neutral. And then when you break out down below the neutral line on high volume, that's when you see this major shift right here. Then you can tell if it hits this level right here, that means it's oversold. If it hits this low level down here, that means it's extremely oversold. So that's when it's likely to reverse. This level right here is overbought, and then this is very overbought. So again, it's when it's likely to reverse. If we look at something like lemonade, it's probably a little bit better just because you can see a lot more volatile movements versus something like the index. So essentially, you're just, for me personally, I'm looking for major volume breakouts when I'm trading. So, um, you know, right here, when it broke out above these areas of resistance, you have this just big volume breakout. Right here, when it kind of topped out, you had a volume breakdown. So you can see that the volume is shifting lower. In this case, the volume got really oversold right here and started shifting higher. So that was like a good buy the dip area right there. And then as far as, where do you get that? For the members in the trading room, I share my grid with everybody. So you can check the link that I just sent you, and it actually comes with that link if you're in the trading room. Okay, so we have 7 more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions that I missed? When is your book available? Oh my gosh, it's like so hard to finish a book. It's like 70% of the way done. It's just like not an easy thing to do, especially when you have 3 small children. My daughter at least just started sleeping through the night. Like she slept through the night, I think 2 times this week. Uh, so we're making some improvements. But that's just one of those things where, I can't do it until can't really work on it until later in the day. Um, and by that time, we have swimming lessons and, mama's tired from being woken up all night long. So hopefully when she sleeps through the night a little bit better, I'll be able to finish more creative projects like that. But I mean, she's like 15 months old, so she should not be waking up all night long. You're so young, Danielle. Enjoy the amazing moments with your kids. It is a lot of fun. I haven't seen this ticker before, LEU, but I think it looks great. I really like the weekly squeeze. Um, Nice price target up at 530 and then 600. Great cup and handle pattern, pull back, slingshot. See, we have earnings coming up. Tried just ignoring her. I did try that, but my husband didn't like that strategy. He's like, "Did you turn off the monitor?" Like, "Yeah." Uh, I know I'm a terrible person. Uh. The problem is I mean, she's not, like, 7 months old, like, she's trying to get out of her bed now, so just worried that she'll if we just ignore her, she'll manage to escape. So, obviously, we don't want her to get injured. It's definitely around the same age that my other 2 kids managed to get out of their crib, so yeah, I mean, I like this pick. I wrote it down on my whiteboard. Whenever people give me new ideas, I write them down, check them out. Um, I'm not familiar with it, but I can look it up later. Um, Overall, love the pattern. It has earnings coming up. It has a positive pre-earnings 21-day average, but you're already halfway through that time frame. So, you entered the pre-earnings time frame on the 6th, and then your earnings report is on the 5th. So, it's coming up pretty soon. You can see that last quarter it did gap down after earnings. Um, Looks like they just had like a very small miss maybe. They're estimated to make 0.195 and they made 0.19, so I don't know if they would even count that as a miss, to be honest. Estimated that quarter was really good. That quarter is really good. That quarter was really good. So I'm not really sure what happened this quarter, but I think the chart pattern looks really good. You'll wake her up t Well, you'll wake up to her trading futures. I mean, the thing is that she is so needy compared to the boys, and I had her just sleeping in my bed for a while because I'm tired, It's like she's waking up all the time, and so I would just let her sleep in my bed. And that worked because then I could sleep, but the problem is now that she's so big, she's, like, kicking me and jumping on me in the middle of the night and all that stuff, so we couldn't really do that anymore. Um, but she's been doing a lot better, sleeping in her own bed, so I don't know, hopefully I can get back to some of the more creative projects here soon. One of my daughters fell out of a grocery cart, landed on head, still graduated valedictorian. Kids are great. Kids are resilient, that's funny. Uh, what are the top 5 stocks long term in an IRA? I mean, yes, my kids' book is done. I did manage to finish that. You can find it on Amazon. I actually just ordered a bunch of them to take to the money show. So you can find this one right here on Amazon. The Ultimate Kids Stock Market Adventure Workbook. Yeah, we don't get babysitters or go out or do anything like that. LEU is part of URA. USAR looks good. Do I like IWM? So IWM was already making highs. So, I mean, yeah, it looks good, but it's already made target after target after target. So, it does have a really nice weekly chart pattern here. Thanks. It does have a really nice weekly chart pattern here, and it does have a weekly squeeze, but again, I mean, it's already made targets. So can it keep going? Yeah, like these things can always keep going after they made targets, but the problem is that you just don't really have a good edge in getting in when it's already made so many targets. And at this point, now it's pulling back 1.85%. So 260 would be a much better entry. 255 would be a much better entry. My wife and I always used to sleep with my daughter because she always got out of her crib. We slept in an H pattern with her in the middle, keeping both of us awake. Yeah, I mean, it used to work fine until she started this really annoying habit where she would wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and be awake for 2.5 hours. Literally just awake, jumping on me. So that's really difficult because it's not like she just wakes up and goes right back to sleep. It's like she wakes up and she's awake. So, can you please look at Amazon? Okay, I'll look at Amazon. LEU looks like the best one that we went over today. Yeah, I agree that LEU looks really good. Um, Amazon reduce the daytime naps. We did just reduce from 2 naps to 1 nap. So maybe that's what has helped actually. Um, okay. So I feel like I'm old, Dave. I feel very old. So Amazon, I mean, it just hasn't really been doing anything for me recently. It's been trading sideways like forever. It had this one move right here. That was a daily squeeze that broke out to the upside. But the main story with Amazon, I think, is the weekly squeeze. So you can see that the weekly chart pattern right here is, um, I think it looks really good. So you can see that, we've pulled back, we've hit the 34 EMA, the volume is shifting to the upside. The volume is like getting close to breaking out. The momentum is shifting to the upside. So, I mean, I still think that Amazon is a great long-term stock pick. Um, I have a price target of 270, 285, then 300, but it's just doing anything for me on the short-term basis. We have earnings coming up that's going to make all the difference in the world. So, I think at this point we're just going to have to wait and see if there's any tradable move for the earnings report because I just don't see anything on it. 69.15 was the strike with the S&P. So it looks like the neutral iron fly would have worked, but that's all right. Fine with the fact I didn't do anything today. Time for the post-market nap. Thank you. Yeah, I hope everybody's safe from the storms. I saw people on Twitter making fun of people in the South that are worried about the snow, and it's like you have no idea what it's like if you don't live there. And because I thought the same thing when I lived in Texas, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, snow." Because I'm from Missouri, so I'm not like a stranger to snow. But the thing is that infrastructure is not at all in any way, shape, or form ready for that. Like there's no snow plows, there's no, it's like nobody Nobody knows how to drive in the snow the way they do in the north and everything, like, it's just that one ice storm in Texas in 2021 was just absolutely insane. Like, we had no power for, like, 2 weeks almost, like, we had to put a hair dryer in our well house so we could even have water, like, it was literally like an apocalypse, like, you couldn't even the stores didn't have, um, power, so unless you had cash, you couldn't buy stuff, and then the trucks couldn't make it to the stores because it was too icy and like, it was just a disaster, so, um I don't know, I've seen people last night on the internet, like, "Oh, the South can't handle the snow." It's like, no, they really can't. Like, the infrastructure is not there, you know? It's not the same thing as living in the North when you have snow plows and everything ready to go and all that kinda stuff. So, I live in Washington State now, and what's crazy is that there's no snow here. It is very cold, but it's sunny and no rain either. All right. Well, I'm going to have to get out of here. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll see you in the trading room on Tuesday. If you guys want to go ahead and check out the trading room, just make sure you check out the link that I posted below. Typically in the trading room, like 2 or 3 times a week. So just kind of depends what I have going on. Um, but normally I'm in the trading room on Tuesdays at the close, Friday at the close, and then on Wednesday, the hour before the close. But I am going to be out of town in 2 weeks, so I'm not going to be here then. But we have an amazing team, and everybody else will be here.